Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the One Hub Racing YouTube channel. And this is time for the One Hub Racing Pinnacle tier. My name is Jake, and I'll be guiding you through the action tonight. And I'm joined by Austin. Hope you're well tonight. How are you looking forward to this opening race?
Good evening, Jake, and good evening to the viewers. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this very much. It is the first time in One Hub Racing history that we are starting the season on a brand new track. It is Zandvoort, the circuit Zandvoort, that's its full name. It's a very short name and it's also a rather short circuit. In fact, the shortest permanent circuit on the F1 calendar, on the original, we should say, F1 2020 calendar, the one that's in the game, but unfortunately not the one, thanks to COVID-19, that ultimately it turned out to be. But it's an interesting track, I have to say. Being as short as it is, we're going to have to expect very quick lap times, barely over a minute, minute 7, minute 8 in qualifying, and probably around a minute 9, minute 10 for the fastest lap of the race. It's going to be really interesting for these drivers because they've never competed on this sort of level on this track before.
Absolutely, it's a step into the unknown, and that's what makes it potentially very unpredictable. Obviously, coming into this season, we've got the reigning champion Louis. He absolutely dominated last season. Speaking of who potentially could challenge him this season, who have you got in mind who could potentially take it to Louis in a title race this season?
There are plenty of challengers lining up for him. Obviously, if you're the dominator, everyone wants to have a shot at you. But I gotta say, there are plenty of names here. There's Midnight, who finished 3rd last season in the Pinnacle tier. Got himself 3 podiums in 9 races that he participated in. 97 points overall. So really, really good results for him last season. There's also IGK Gill, who is completely new to One Hub but has turned heads in other leagues. There's IGK Zach, we can't forget about him, real-life French F4 driver and the fastest driver we had on qualifying night, in fact quicker than BDG Louis. Who would believe that? But it actually happened. The only driver, in fact, to get into the 1 minute 24s, not even Louis was able to do that. And then we look at some of the returning drivers. We look at Cliffy, we look at Beast Haas, we look at Glock, and we look at Samster. All of these drivers are lining up to try and dethrone Louis. The question is whether any of them will be able to.
Absolutely, there's so many quick races in this league. It's going to be so close to competition this year. And just to signify just how much Louis has dominated in recent times, he's on a 28 race streak in One Hub of finishing in the top 5. Now that's incredible. Just to say that in words is incredible. To have such consistency over such a long period of time, that takes some serious dedication and speed.
Yeah, the last time he did not finish in the top 5, and the only time, in fact, in his One Hub career that he did not finish in the top 5 was back in season 13. That's, 16 minus 13, that's 3 seasons ago. That was on F1 2018. So over the whole course of the 2019 game cycle, there was not a single race where Louis did not finish inside the top 5. That is just insane.
That is incredible. And if we talk about one place where that streak could potentially end, surely this is a perfect setting. It's a new game, it's a brand new track. Surely this could be the best chance for him to potentially not have a race he'd be hoping for.
Yeah, and it's also a track where overtaking is rather difficult. You don't really have any sort of long straight. The best overtaking opportunity is probably turn 1. You have a long acceleration zone coming out of turn 13, and then through the heavily banked corner. I think we're gonna go for an onboard lap over the course of qualifying to show you just how high the banking is there in that final corner. And it's not just there, turn 3 as well, very high bank, but obviously a very slow corner as well, and not much of a run-up, so not that good of an overtaking opportunity. But that is the best spot. There's also an opportunity in turn 11 Turn 12, that sort of chicane, but the run-up, the DRS straight just before, it's just way too short. There's not much of a way, unless the driver in front makes a serious mistake in turn 10, which at this level of competition, I wouldn't expect.
No, absolutely not. We've got the best of the best here, and they're going to have to deal with some challenging weather conditions in qualifying because we do have some rain. So I wonder how that will affect things going into qualifying. It's very unlikely that many drivers might not have even driven this circuit in the wet yet. So this could be a brand new experience for them.
That could very well be the case. In fact, some drivers said in the pre-race interview they didn't even drive this track in the dry. One such driver would be Lakitu, who said he strongly dislikes the track, and he's only done around 5 laps of practice around here. Another driver is Larkin, who said he expects to be near the back for this race. He wants to be in the top 10, but that's his goal, but he expects to be near the back for both qualifying and the race, and he had no practice either. And I think it needs to be mentioned for these drivers, it's not because they didn't want to practice, probably because they didn't have the time to practice.
No, that's very true. It was a very busy build-up to the One Hub season, of course. The qualifying night and then choosing your teammates. It was going for the team you wanted to be in, so there was a lot to do pre-race, and of course that does leave some time out to practice. So this is going to be brand new for a lot of drivers. We've got Josh M, who's the first car out on track, and once he gets his qualifying lap going, if you could take us around a lap of Zandvoort, Austin, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Just tell us where some of the key areas of this track are.
Which driver are you on right now, sorry?
Josh in the Racing Point. He was the first driver out on track.
Okay, so he's coming through the final sector. I'll start on the finish line. So 2 more corners to go here, both right-handers. This is the high banking I was talking about. You look at this and you see, this is kind of frightening the first time you drive it. Alright, onto the soft finish straight. We head towards turn 1, heavy braking zone. Great overtaking opportunity. On the first lap, it's going to be very tight. You don't want to touch the inside curb here. That one can spin you right around. Then you head through turn 2, the right hand, the left hander doesn't really count. Then turn 3, you're very narrow into there because you're all the way on the left. Because of turn 2, you need good acceleration, easy to spin on the exit there of turn 3, 4, 5, 6, all flat out. This right-hander here, turn 6, then turn 7, Scheivlak it's called. That's not a swear word. It may sound like one, but it really isn't. Turn 8. Here, long right-handers, really tricky to get right because you're braking and turning at the same time. So trail braking, massively important. Turn 10, you need a good run here through that corner to set yourself up for this straight. If you mess this up, you are a sitting duck into the Audi S turns 11 and 12. You want to take as much curb here on the inside as possible without getting a corner cut warning or getting a lap invalidated. Turn 12, you need to be very, very patient. Turn 13, last braking zone. Really just try to set yourself up for this long acceleration zone. This corner here is flat out Ari Luyendijk corner. An American racing hero, actually. He was very successful, born in the Netherlands, but made over to the United States and was racing in was winning actually the Indy 500. I think in 1985, if I remember correctly. And yeah, he's got that last corner. How fitting that he has a banked corner named after him. And I have to correct myself, 1990 and 1997 Indy 500 winner.
Wow, that's incredible. And yeah, what a corner to have named after you. It is very unique to Formula One. We've not seen something like that in a very long time, probably since Indianapolis back in, I think the last Grand Prix was in 2007. So it's been a long, long time, and that corner's very unique. And it looks like it might have already caught a driver out, because I think Samster has actually crashed out just after the final corner. I don't know if he was going into the pit lane or if it was on the exit of the final corner, but Samster's qualifying is already over. And you mentioned how difficult this track is to overtake. Just how much of a blow will it be to be starting from the back of a grid?
Yeah, the one thing that might be his saving grace is the fact that obviously for One Hub there is a mandatory two-stop rule in place, so all drivers are going to have to pit twice in the race. And that definitely means that there are some opportunities. If you pull an undercut here or there, you get a couple of positions. But on this track where it's so hard to overtake, this is going to be really, really hurting him.
Absolutely. And Louis already set out his intentions very early on. He's gone straight to the top on a 1:17.6. Obviously, we had an idea of what a dry pole time would be. We're probably less sure about what an intermediate pole time would be. I guess it depends on the conditions and whatnot, but it's a good lap by Louis, and at the moment, only Josh is in the 1:17s as well.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to predict what an intermediate pole time would look like, because, as you said, it really depends on the conditions. And another thing that adds to it is that obviously we do have some idea as to the driver's pace in the dry. Some of them actually also practice on time trial in the wet, so we do have an idea of what it's like in full wet conditions. But intermediate conditions, there are no leaderboards for this, and drivers, they do practice it, but there's no data for us as commentators to pick from and look. And so it's really, really hard for us to tell. But that 17.6 from Louis, I mean, you look at the gaps to the guys behind, he's already half a second ahead of 4th place. So he's socially distancing on the timing tower.
And that's just the way Louis does things, it would appear, sort of starting off where he left off last season. And it's worth mentioning, of course, we've only got 18 cars out there, so we have got 2 people missing. One of those drivers is Zach, who we did tip to be very, very quick, but obviously, as he's a real-life French F4 racing driver, he does have other commitments as well. And the other driver we're missing, I believe, is Pat.
Yep.
Just the 18 cars tonight, and with Zach not being here, that's certainly one rival potentially that was going to stop Louis, who isn't able to tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let me quickly just check to make sure. Yeah, Zach is currently at the Circuit Paul Armagnac in Nogaro in southwestern France to prepare for tomorrow's races 1 and 2 and Sunday's race 3 of the French F4. So he can't really be here, but he will have a chance to race the Zandvoort circuit later this year, because the French F4 actually does race around Zandvoort. We'll be in late September, 25th to 27th of September, which will also coincide with another one hub race. I think that should be, if I'm not mistaken, that would be Canada that he's missing. I might be wrong. I'm going to have to check my own notes here and check the calendar, but I think that would have to be although I don't think it's, oh no, it could be Canada. Let me quickly check to make sure. There it is. Oh, it's actually the US Grand Prix. Sorry, it's round 6. It's the US Grand Prix. I was off by 1, so he's gonna miss the US Grand Prix most likely, but racing at Zandvoort.
I mean, that's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I hope for his sake it's not raining, because I would not want to drive that banked curve in the wet. That's for sure.
I mean, it's the Netherlands in late September. Rain is not out of the question. The weather in the Netherlands, generally in Central Europe, I live in Germany, I know what I'm talking about. Late September, yeah, you get a lot of rain around these parts, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to have the same conditions that we're watching right now.
I was just following Glock on his lap just previously a minute ago, and he went off the track, so struggling with the conditions at the moment. Both Mercedes are already out of qualifying, so this is a very different thing to what we expect to see in real life F1 for sure. Both Mercedes not having the qualifying session they'd be hoping for. And just to reassert his dominance a bit more, Louis actually gone a little bit faster onto a 17.4. Still nobody really getting anywhere near his time at the moment.
Yeah, Glock's one of those drivers that we would expect to get there, but doesn't seem like he's too comfortable with the track right now in these conditions. Although now he is 6.4 seconds up, so that actually would at least put him in the low 119s. If he also gets a good final sector, that could certainly be a really good time. But he didn't mess up as Skeven. Oh, Skeven spun on the exit of the final corner. He was there on the right side of pit entry, He must have spun, and he's out of the session. Glock, meanwhile, moves up to P12, 118.7, but Skeven not able to improve as SOR Hamilton. It's all kicking off now in the Alfa Romeo, moves up to second place. So once again, we do have a driver named Hamilton with the 44 in his name in this instance, being near the top.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the same place that Samster crashed out as well. So the exit that final corner is definitely proving treacherous in these conditions. A few drivers already been caught out by it, and I mean, at least in Skeven's case, he's put in a representative lap time, so he might not be as affected by it as the Mercs, but that's definitely not what he would have wanted. That's a good lap from Hamilton there, 117.8. I mean, looking prior to the start of the season, I wouldn't have considered Hamilton to be a title contender, to be honest, but that lap time was mightily impressive.
Yeah, last season in the Pinnacle tier, SOR Hamilton started 7 races, finished 5 of them, got a total of 2 points, 1 10th place and 1 fastest lap outside the top 10. That wasn't a very successful campaign for him last season, but he also says he's feeling confident on this track and on the new game, and he hopes at least for qualifying inside the top 10 and finishing the race inside the top 10. All the drivers in the pre-race interview were asked about their goals, and really the main tendency that we've seen in those pre-race interviews was that almost everyone said, I mean, yeah, top 10 in qualifying, top 10 in the race would be nice. So no one really knows where they're standing, so they're saying, yeah, top half, you know, better than 50% of the drivers, that would be good. Above average, that's where they want to be. Because no one knows where they're at right now. It's such a scramble. Apart from Louis, who unfortunately didn't take the pre-race interviews, so the drivers are, well, they don't have to do it, but obviously it is encouraged for them to, you know, voice their thoughts and their opinions and respond to the questions that are posted in our forums.
Absolutely, and I guess at the start of the season as well, you don't want to set your hopes too high if you're not too sure. You don't want to, you know, sound like you're gonna dominate and then struggle. So I think aiming for points is always a safe bet. You know, it's a sensible aim without being too over the top. And maybe in some people's cases, they want to hide what they can do. They don't want to. They maybe feel like they do have the pace, but don't want to let everyone know.
Yeah, one thing that I think we should mention for this season is obviously that every driver who does participate in every race and who does all their media day stuff, all the pre-race interviews, post-race interviews, the driver's press conference, etc., is eligible for the Going Gets Tough award. So that's an award that has been incarnated by OneHub for this season to award those drivers who are always showing up but who aren't necessarily always at the front. You have to participate in every race, you have to finish every race, even if it means P14, 15, 16, and you have to do your media day stuff consistently every single week to be eligible for that. And yeah, the winner could come home with a prize from one of our sponsors, a Next Level Racing wheel stand.
Absolutely, and our other sponsor, Liam13, who actually saw participating earlier on tonight in the Prospect here, he's actually also sponsoring our trophies this season, and you can ride with him on his Twitch channel when he is racing.
Yeah, he's also been in the chat here earlier. I think he's still watching right now. But I definitely saw him posting in the chat earlier. He was saying, Louis about to keep the streak alive. 28 races. I just, it's something that I can't wrap my mind around. I was researching it earlier, and I just, it's unbelievable to me. 28 races in a row, and it's not just that it was 28 races in a row, excluding, you know, the odd retirement here or there. No, he didn't even retire during any of those races. The last 28 races he started, he finished inside the top 5 every single time. No retirements, no outside the top 5, no outside the top 10, that's for sure. It's just an incredible streak.
Absolutely, and, you know, it's all well and good, you know, I think it's like a big boast, you know, when you can do a great lap time on time trial, but it's a big difference between that and consistently producing race after race, and that's where I take my hat off to Louis. You know, his pace is impressive, but so is his consistency, and that's what's going to make him so formidable and so difficult to beat here.
Yeah, meanwhile, I want to draw your attention to the skies and the weather. It has stopped raining.
Yep, and Slash has just gone quickest on soft tyres.
Yeah, by 3.5 seconds. So now is the time for everyone. And most drivers have actually switched. Lakitu and Cliffy and Westy are the only 3 drivers in the pit lane still on the intermediates. They should switch any time now. I hope they realize that the rain has indeed stopped and that they do switch. But everyone now out on softs, and so this is going to be a one-shot qualifying basically for all these drivers. It was raining for about, what, 14, 15 minutes, and now it has stopped raining. It is dry conditions here, and whoever will be the last one to come across the line, I think, will have the best shot at getting pole position.
Well, I was just going to mention this to you, actually, because Louis gone out very early on soft tyres. Unless he's put a lot of fuel in, he could get caught out here if the track conditions significantly improve. Because he won't be the last one across the line unless he's put a few laps of fuel in the car.
Yeah, certainly. I hope he overfueled a little bit to give himself 2 runs. That's certainly an opportunity, but on these tyres, unless it's raining at the start of the race. Although, look at that time.
1:11.1.
But at the same time, as the track gets quicker, that time could come down a lot further. We said earlier, 1 minute 7.7 or high 1 minute 7s is where we expect the pole time to be. So there's still a lot of space in that region between a low 1:11 and a high 1:07. That's 3.5 seconds between what Louis just did and what we would expect if the track was, you know, in sort of perfect dry condition. So a lot of time left, and I think Louis does have enough fuel left over for one more run. I think otherwise he would have retired already, although it might be that he's on his way to the pit lane. But look at this, he's taking a very slow lap now. And now Westy is still on intermediates. Westy is still on intermediates. Westy is not going to improve. He's going back into the pit lane. I think that is his qualifying over, the only one to forget to change. And these are the mistakes you cannot make in the Pinnacle team. And he retires from the session, and so he's not going to improve as SOI Hamilton now goes fast as 1 minute 10.5 as the track just gets quicker and quicker and quicker with every waning second.
Absolutely, track's only going to keep ramping up, and like you say, it might just be a case of who's last over the line gets pole here. It's one of those qualifying sessions. All the lap times they did on intermediates now rendered completely irrelevant, and that's Hamilton's qualifying session over, so he won't be going any quicker than that, and I can't imagine that's going to stay on pole. Like you say, that's still a few seconds away from the times we should be expecting in full dry conditions.
Yeah, there are more and more drivers now improving. I'm seeing purple sector 1 and 2 by Compassion. Also seeing everyone's going quicker now, quicker than SOI Hamilton did. I think, yep, there we go. We've got Beast has now in P1, only to be dropped by Josh very, very quickly. There's Compassion now in second. The time has run out, so every lap that the drivers are on, that's their last one. Glock now retiring in P6 for now. A lot of drivers still coming through. Louis will be coming soon. Konzo in P4. What can Louis do? First 2 sectors, let me quickly check. Yeah, he was a lot better. 1.2 seconds, make that 2 seconds. So he could be on 4. Oh, there's going to be close. Final sector? Oh yeah, it's not going to be close. He got another 5, 6 tenths in the final sector and goes up to P1. Midnight P3. There's so much going on right now. Gil is coming across the line.
Gil goes second, 1:08.9.
And Lakitu aborts his lap, invalidated it anyway. May have been a good one, but in the end, he is going back into the pit lane. So we have our grid order, and it's BDG Louis, the Dominator. Or as he calls himself on Twitter, the Big Chungus. On pole position. Yeah, that's actually what he calls himself. I'm not making this up. Gil in second, Josh in third, and then Midnight in fourth. I gotta say, for Red Bull, this is a really good result. P2, P4. I think that's a great way to start the season.
Absolutely, we tipped Gil to be one of the people to watch, and he put a great lap in at the end. But I mean, Louis, no matter what the conditions were, he just seemed to have a margin over everybody. If that's a scary start to a season for all his competitors, because if that's the pace he's got, that he's going to take some beating.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult to beat him, whoever you are. I mean, again, Zach, unfortunately not here for this one. He might actually miss 5 races of the whole 10-race season, so half the races he might actually miss because of his French F4 duties, but he may have been one to challenge him. However, today it's going to be Gil and Josh who are trying to challenge him, as Louis takes pole position ahead of those two, followed by Midnight, Larkin, Compassion, Beast, Haas, Konzo, Harry, and SOI Hamilton rounding out the top 10. They're going to have to start on the tyre they qualified on, all on the softs. Glock 11th, Slash 12, Scheme 13, Lakitu 14, Cliffy 15, Westy 16, Samster and Matt in the Mercedes, both with no time, 17 and 18.
What a dramatic qualifying session. The conditions changing right at the end, throwing everything into chaos and creating a grid which might not be fully representative of the pace everybody has, because that was just a crazy end to qualifying. As we saw with Westy, he can get it very wrong, as he did, going back out on intermediate tyres. That really cost him a shot at getting high up the grid. But it's going to be an interesting race. Looks like we've got dry conditions for the start of the race, but it's still looking pretty overcast. So I don't know what that means for the entire race, but I mean, what would you expect? With the drivers having freedom of what tyre to start on, do you think we'll see a lot of drivers starting on mediums, or do you think they'll still go for softs?
It's a tricky call, this. It depends really on the driver's setup for one, because some drivers have told me that they are struggling with keeping the soft tyres, the temperatures in check. So it might be that some drivers go for 1 stint on the softs and 2 stints on the mediums anyway, but I would expect most drivers to go 2 stints on the softs and just 1 on the medium to make sure that they get the best performance out of these tires, and especially in these overcast conditions. I would say in these conditions it's probably more likely for drivers to start on the softs, because as it is a bit cooler in the air, and with the track temperature being a bit cooler as well, it's more likely that the softs are the tire of choice right now in these conditions, and it's the mediums who would probably even struggle to get up to temperature. So I think personally my choice, seeing the sky, seeing the temperatures, would be the soft tires.
I agree, yeah. You need that little bit, especially as it's such a difficult track to overtake on. The last thing you want is a poor start, and you're much likely to get better traction off the line on the soft tyres as well. So it's going to be all important, and those drivers near the back of the grid know they've got a tough race ahead of them. What would you say? Obviously, we mentioned Turn 1 as a big overtaking spot. Is there anywhere else where you believe they could potentially make overtake stick around here?
Well, as I said before, Turn 11 might be an opportunity, that right-left sort of chicane, the Audi S as it's called. That might be an opportunity, but again, you need a really good run out of Turn 10 and maybe your opponent to make a mistake in front. Otherwise, it's going to be really tricky. What certainly is not an overtaking spot is Turn 7, because even though you have a sort of full speed and full throttle section all the way from Turn 3 to Turn 7, it's not really possible to run side by side through turns 4, 5 or 6 unless both drivers give each other plenty of room, and even then it's so dangerous and so difficult that it's probably just going to end in absolute calamity.
So looking at what tyres everyone's gone for, everyone in the top 10 starting on soft tyres, even though they didn't actually, well, actually they would have had to, wouldn't they, because they finished qualifying on them. Some interesting tyre calls outside the top 10, in particularly Skeven, who's actually opted to start on the hard tyre. What could be his thinking behind that?
Ooh, that is interesting. Maybe my only idea in that regard is that he's maybe hoping for an early safety car. And if that doesn't happen, as Matt, Matt and Lakita apparently have come together in some way, but disqualification right now, in case you're wondering. These two drivers have been disqualified, they're out of the race. Why are the commentators so calm? They've just been disqualified from the formation lap, meaning they're going to start on cold tires, but they will be allowed to participate in the race. It's only for the formation lap, because they've made contact with each other apparently, but no damage on them either.
Yeah, the game makes it a lot more dramatic than it actually is, so they'll be absolutely fine. So, we're just waiting now for the lights to go out, and here we go. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and the Pinnacle tier season is underway. It looks like a pretty solid start there from Louis, but he's actually got the Red Bull going down his inside, and
that's Gil.
Gil going down the inside, and Gil's taking the lead from Louis there, and honestly, he's got the best traction away from the line as battles going on further behind. And yeah, if you take me through what's going on, because it's a dramatic start, and that's a fantastic start for Gil up front.
Yeah, a couple things to note here. A, it is not lap 2, it is indeed lap 1. So in case you're wondering, the lap graphic in the top left is wrong. It will be wrong for the first 2 laps, but once we head to lap 3, it will be correct. And then, as you just saw, the timing screen just got itself sorted out, so it is correct now. But there will be another glitch where it's going to be messed up once again once we start lap 2. Lap 1 actually is now correct in the top left, but I think we will get someone having lap 3 once they all come across the line to start lap 2. But yeah, Gil, really good start early on. It is a short run to turn 1, and getting an overtake done off the line and into turn 1. Very tricky around here, but he made it happen, and now he's trying to pull away from Louis and get outside that 1 second DRS window. We have yellow flag sector 3.
Samster.
That's Samster in the pits. DRS has not been enabled. That was the message in the bottom left, but again, bit of an issue there with our graphics. So yeah, that's front wing change for Samster, and he's going on to the hards. I think the thinking here is he wants to go deep into this race and then go on to softs towards the end. Same, I think, with Skeven as well. I hope Skeven didn't forget, as everything's shuffling around in the timing tower, but it's fine now. I think the thinking for Skeven is that, you know, go on the hards, then 2 stints on the softs towards the end. Maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable with the mediums, or worst case scenario, he forgot about the mandatory 2-stop rule.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case. He didn't forget about that, and hopefully it's just a ploy to use the soft tyres more towards the end of the race, and maybe, like you say, hope for a safety car. I have to say, at the moment, it's Gil's driving fairly well at the moment.
Oh, Cliffy has spun.
Oh, we've got a spinner further down. Cliffy, where's that around?
That was on the exit of the Audi, yes. I don't know if he made contact with someone. I think he may have. But that's definitely him around in the Audi, yes. But no damage, so he can continue. Just lost him a whole lot of time.
Unfortunate there, but like I say, at least he's avoided damage and he can continue and hopefully still salvage some from this race. There's, of course, a long, long way to go yet. And Gil currently leads, Louis second, Josh in third. The top 5 cars all remaining quite close together at the moment. I'd say at the moment the driver who looks most likely to make an overtake is, for me anyway, Compassion's looking quite threatening behind Larkin in the battle for 5th place. But of course we get to have DRS in operation until now.
Yeah, see, one issue with this game and pretty much all F1 games ever since DRS became a thing in Formula 1 is that these DRS trains form, where everyone gets DRS, so no one gets DRS, basically, is how it works. So everyone gets this overtaking help, overtaking, you know, aid, and in the end, no one's going to be able to use it to overtake. Maybe Beast has on Konzo, but Konzo had it as well. So that's why Konzo was able to defend here and keep P7 off of Beast House. But yeah, that's just a big issue. The driver in front obviously is the most threatened because he's the only one who doesn't get it. But if you're third in line and second place gets DRS and you get it as well, you just cancel each other out and it doesn't help anyone. Second place obviously can make a move happen on P1. but it's really hard if you're the third in line in those DRS ranks. It's even harder if, like Compassion right now, you're the 6th in line of this train.
Yeah, Louis beginning to look more up to speed in this race. Took a few laps to get going, but he's looking potentially like he might be able to make the move. Of course, Gil will be the only one who doesn't have DRS, so he will be defenseless in that regard. The only blessing for him, I suppose, is that this isn't a particularly easy track to overtake on. So, but Louis actually looks like he's got a pretty good run out of the bank curve. I wonder if he'll be able to.
Here he goes.
He's going for a move down the inside to turn 1. There's a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Louis goes down the inside, makes the move stick, and is up into the lead. That was a bit of wheel banging, but overall a pretty clean move, and Louis just looked to have a bit more pace about him at this stage of the race.
Yeah, I think what he did was he deployed his ERS very early out of turn 13 and then through the bank corner of turn 14, make sure to limit the wheel spin, and then just absolutely used everything he had to his advantage. The slipstream, the DRS, the overtake button, and Gil, I don't think Gil was too interested in fighting this.
No, I mean, of course, with a 2-stop being mandatory, there's plenty of opportunity for strategy to come into play here. Maybe that's something in Gil's thinking. He probably also knows in the back of his mind that Louis is probably just quicker at the moment, and as you can see, he's already starting to build a little bit of a gap here. He's going to be out of DRS range soon if Gil's not careful, and the last thing Gil wants to do is lose the DRS, because then he might become under threat from Josh as well.
Yeah, at the same time, looking at the sector times right now, fastest sector 1 came from Louis, however, fastest sector 2 and fastest sector 3, both from Gil, so he should still have the upper hand. It needs to be said, though, that Gil was in clean air the whole time when he set those sector times, as we have Matt in the pit lane now. He's switching on to hards as well. I think he may have had some damage, so absolutely used day for the Mercedes here in the Pinnacle tier. Both Samsa and Matt now with their first pit stop already, and I think both of them unplanned pit stops, losing them a lot of time and basically rendering them out of contention.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a disaster for Mercedes, if we're honest. They didn't have a good qualifying, and it's just not working out for them here either. I suppose the best hope for them now is that there is a safety car at some point in the race to help get them back to the back of the pack, but even then, of course, it's difficult to fight your way through, as we've seen. But yeah, you're right in saying Gil he's definitely not letting Louis scamper away at the front. He's keeping reasonably close tabs on him, and I guess he maybe hope to do an undercut when the first round of stops come along.
Yeah, that could be the idea. Maybe that's why Gil let himself fall back. But at the same time, I'm looking at the ERS of both Louis and Gil. It tells a story, usually. If you look at the battery charge of both of these drives, so Louis is at almost 50% right now. Gil is at just under 40 now. He's gotten back over 40 because of where he is on track, etc. But basically, there's just about a 15% gap between the two of them in favor of Louis. When Louis overtook Gil, they were even. So that tells me that Gil is struggling a little bit to keep up with Louis, because he's using more ERS to stay near the back of Gil. And one thing we have to remember on this game in particular, especially with regards to changes made from 2019, is that the dirty air on this game is a lot more effective. It's a lot more tangible. You can feel it as a driver. You can tell how much understeer it gives you, and it just makes you slower. It makes you so much slower. Maybe that's why Gil is struggling to stay with Louis. The gap has now shrunk to about 10% between the two of them, but it's still there, and Gil's gonna have to try and regain some of that energy charge to still be behind Louis and have a chance at some point over the course of this race.
And these top three are starting to gap the group behind them. Midnight is leading that group from 4th place downwards, but he's nearly 2 seconds now behind Josh in 3rd. And you're speaking about ERS usage, Josh is really pushing his ERS hard just to keep tabs of his top two, so he's going to have to do some battery saving at some point soon as well.
And he's not the only one. Midnight as well. Midnight was trying to stay with the top three, wasn't able to, and now his ERS is depleted. And I would say at this point, he's basically a sitting duck, makes a mistake there through the exit of turn 9. runs a little bit too wide, 2 wheels on the grass. That's not what you want to do. And now Larkin, I think Larkin is really fancying a move here. Not here into turn 11, but next opportunity into turn 1. Once they get out of the Audi S, 1 more braking zone, 2 more corners, and then I think he's going to unleash all the power the AlphaTauri has. Izzy, yes, early on the overtake. And short run as everyone goes into the pit lane, the top 3 all in. And
wow.
Here goes Larkin for the lead on Midnight, and he gets it down the inside. Midnight trying the cutback onto the curb. That's, as I said before, not the most safe thing to do there, trying to go onto the curb. And we have our first pit stops at the end of lap 8. Now, they're all going on to mediums, except for SOR Hamilton, but the top 3, the net top 3, Louis, Gil, and Josh, all on the mediums. Now, lap 8, that tells me they're going for a soft medium 2-stop. Because if you go lap 8, usually I don't think you would go for soft medium soft. They leave themselves that opportunity, and that's smart for all 3 of them. But I don't think we'll see soft tires from any of them, unless maybe someone wants to go a little bit deeper and try and overcut and then try and use the softest. We have a yellow flag. That is someone going slow. I think that is Glock who's falling down the order. And
recovered from a spin.
Glock.
Yeah, I think he's had a spin somewhere. It's like he's recovered from it. So it's really unfortunate for Glock. Someone we thought would have a lot of pace, but he's just struggling to...
Oh, what does Louis do? He's overtaking into turn 13. That's not an overtaking spot. As now Larkin and Midnight are in the pit lane. Same goes for Harry. They're all going on to mediums. Harry as well. Let's check.
Gil. Is Gil looking for a move on Louis? Not quite. He got the move done on Skeven, but he had fancied a look at Louis for a split second there as well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hamilton and Harry now the only 2 drivers who've pitted from soft onto soft. So that's going to be a bit interesting to see. So they're going for the soft medium strategy. So we still have 3 drivers up front. Compassion leading the race. Compassion, one of the drivers that I found very interesting. He's only done 2 races so far in One Hub. This is his 3rd. But in those 2 races, he won 1 and he got 2nd in the other. So if that's not a great debut, if that's not a great streak to start your One Hub career, I don't know what is.
Absolutely, that's a very strong start indeed. There's a yellow flag out in sector 2. I wonder...
Hamilton has spun.
Hamilton's spun. Oh, Hamilton's having some problems. He was on pole position, let's not forget, for quite a bit of qualifying actually, but it's just not worked out for him, unfortunately. And we've got Compassion and Conzo in the pits.
So he's got damage. Hamilton has damage on the right side of his front wing.
Oh, they go 3 wide into turn 1. Oh, I don't know how they avoided contact there, but
They did not avoid contact. For the most part they did, but then in the end Gil and Lakitu came together and Lakitu almost spun, almost lost him. Now Josh is spun! Josh has spun around! Oh, that is what I talked about earlier, that high banking, and then all of a sudden you get out of the banking, there's a huge bump there, and that is so easy to just lose the car there. And Harry has left the session. I think he's had enough, or he just got kicked.
Oh, there's more contact! Slash has gone into the back of Josh. Oh, and that's Josh's race has been completely ruined in the space of half a lap. I don't know what, that was a tough one there, because Slash just went into the back of him. I don't know if maybe caught out slightly by Josh's lack of speed into there, but unfortunately that was Josh into the gravel, and I feel like Slash will be very lucky there if he's got away without damage. No, he's got front wing missing, so it looks like Slash will have to pit as well. And he's only...
I can't see it right now. I'm in the helicopter cam, so I can't really tell. But Westy now in the pit lane, and Beast House still staying out on the softs. Interesting strategy, this. And yeah, that is definitely massive front wing damage on the right side, and he's going to have to pit for this one, and he does. And
that's just a lap after pitting as well, so... That's a disaster.
That's his 2-stop done, though. That's his 2-stop done. He's going on to the hards, I would expect.
No, he's gone on to soft, so he's...
Oh, wow.
So he's definitely got to stop again.
Well, maybe his thought is 2 stints of softs are probably quicker than 1 stint on the hards. So maybe that's what he's trying to do.
Especially like you mentioned.
Yeah, might not be the most stupid call. You got to remember, it's only 14.5 seconds that you lose from a pit stop around here. It's one of the shortest pit lanes on the calendar, if not the shortest pit lane on the calendar.
Of course, and you mentioned those cooler track conditions as well. Those can't be good for heating up those hard tyres. So, yeah, maybe he's decided to go aggressive and hope that it works out that way. Beastas is in the pits, so Louis takes back over the race lead. But fair play to Gil, he's sticking right to the back of him, and you could sense that eagerness from Gil to stay as close to Louis as possible when they were going through all that traffic.
Yeah, that is the key. I think if you've already made your pit stop and you are on fresh tires, you know, you've done the undercut on everyone else, and now you're coming up to drivers who haven't pitted yet, who are still on their old tires. Best way to do it, if you are still fighting for the net lead of the race, just stay as close to your opponent as possible and try to follow him through with every move that they make.
And Louis is definitely not a driver you want to let skate out into the lead. He knows how to control races from that position. You know, he's not someone you would expect to make a mistake. So you have to stay as close to him as possible and try and keep that pressure on. And fair play to Gil, he's doing a great job of that so far.
Yeah.
Skeeven's still out there in third place on those hard tyres. He's not got bad pace on those hard tyres. I don't think. I mean, he's holding off Lakitu, who's on those mediums.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm looking at my telemetry here, and I'm seeing that Midnight has some massive front wing damage on the right side. He's going into the pits? Yes, he is. So he must have gotten some damage this lap. Let me quickly check to make sure. Was it a couple laps ago? It may have been a couple laps ago, actually. Oh, no. It was lap 13. Yeah, so it was... He had some minor damage already, 25%, and then it went up to 44% damage, so got a lot more severe, and he had to come in, change his front wing, goes onto the hards, and that is his strategy done, I would think. He's going to go to the end. But yeah, a lot of drivers here being caught out trying to do maybe too much, trying to make overtakes happen where they are not really on. Maybe it's the inexperience of this new track on the One Hub calendar. First time a lot of these drivers are racing on this track, on this game. So maybe that's what plays into this.
Absolutely. It can be so frustrating when you are stuck behind someone who you believe you are quicker than, but this track just isn't an easy one to overtake on, and sometimes patience, you have to be a little bit more patient and realise, you know, the race is 36 laps long. You've got plenty of time to make a move. Even if you can't do it on track, sometimes you can do it on strategy. So sometimes it's better just to wait it out than try a move which, in all honesty, in the back of your mind, you know probably isn't going to work, as we've got Lakitu and Glock back in the pits.
Yeah, interesting. They were both on the mediums. Lakitu switched onto another set of mediums, so his strategy is clear at this point. Medium, medium, soft. Glock from mediums to soft, so he has free choice when he makes his second pit stop. He doesn't have to go on to soft. I think that's the smarter way to do it. So you make sure that if there's, for example, a safety car, we still have 18 runners. So there's still the possibility that maybe someone crashes and we do get a safety car of sorts, or a virtual safety car even, that you are able and you're in a position where you can take advantage of that. And I think Lakitu is not setting himself up for that, but Glock definitely is. And he's not the only one to do that. I think Cliffy as well. Although we're going to have to check how many. So yeah, Cliffy as well. Harry. They're the three. Although Harry, I think. No, Harry was also on medium. Let me check to make sure. No, Harry was soft. Sorry, my apologies. So Harry's not setting himself up for that. But the front runners all are. So the drivers who started on soft, then went on to mediums. Louis, Gil, Larkin, Compassion, Beastas, Konzo. I think they're all doing the right thing as well. Josh before his crashes and his incidents, and we have a virtual safety car.
Harry's spun, and he's still going backwards, trying to get it spun back round.
And the front wing is gone.
He's been disqualified for going the wrong way.
Yeah.
He was reversing, so that's slightly understandable. Codemasters doesn't tend to take too kindly to drivers doing that, and unfortunately that is Harry's race over. I was just about to say as well, there was a good battle brewing for 4th place between Larkin and Compassion, 2 of our race premium drivers, and there's been a lot of calls for Larkin to get a podium tonight, and he's not looking in too bad of a shape at the moment, it has to be said. Currently in 4th with Skeeven in front, who still has yet to pit.
Oh! Did you see that?
What happened, sorry?
Gil just got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car.
Oh, and they're going free abreast into turn one. Sorry to cut you off there. There was Beasthass, Larkin and Compassion free abreast into turn 1, and Beasthass has gained 2 positions in 1 corner. That's an incredible move from the Ferrari.
Yeah, let me quickly check if he was the only one to get a drive. No, 2 drivers, in fact, got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. Samsta is the other one, and IGK Gill. They're going to have to serve that penalty within 3 laps. So this is the first run that they make it past the line. And you can see Gill falling off of Louis a little bit here. He's been too aggressive under the safety car. Gets a drive-through penalty for that. That is going to cost you around 10 to 11 seconds.
And it's a double whammy as well, in effect, because I think Gil has also lost time to Louis despite that, so maybe the penalty shocked him and he almost slowed down in response to it, but he's lost time anyway, so I imagine at a track like this, what he'd probably want to do is leave it until the last possible lap, because he'd hope, I suppose, that Skeeven will pit, and a few others might pit in that time, because he doesn't want to be in traffic.
Yeah, so you get 3 laps. Honestly, if I was Gil at this point, I'd probably do it as early as possible, because if he takes it now, again, 10 to 11 seconds, he's going to come out in a huge gap between Compassion and Konzo. There's an 8-second gap, and he comes out pretty much in the middle of that gap. So he's going to have 3 to 4 seconds up ahead, 3 to 4 seconds behind, and it's going to work out fantastically. But then again, that gap probably doesn't go away too much. If he does it now, the gap does stay pretty much the same there. So we have a yellow flag sector 1. Midnight is out. That is exit of turn 3. Let's go with Slash to see what happened. Yep, spun to the left side. That's pretty standard stuff for that corner. It's what I was talking about. You have this bump on the exit where you have the banking and then you no longer have the banking, so the track straightens out and you drive over a bump on the right side where you're obviously on the racing line, and that's where the wheels can just spin, as Gil is now into the pit lane for his drive-through penalty, and chose to do it when Skeeven's in the pits, and he just jumped him straight up. So well played there for Gil.
And he comes out into lots of clear air, like you mentioned, so he's got that's worked out pretty well for him, all things considered. Also, Samster, I saw, has served his penalty on the previous lap, so he's got his out of the way early on. And so like you said, Skeeven's pitted and come out in 10th place. That was a pretty productive hard tyre stint, I would say, there.
Yeah, certainly. Now he's on the softs, and he's going to go onto the softs again. I don't think he's going to go soft, medium, hard there. So, yeah, this is definitely, as you call it, productive for sure. So that definitely will help his chances to, towards the end of the race, maybe gain some positions on the other drivers. We expect the next pit stops for the drivers who went from soft to medium, or medium to soft, to go around lap 21 to if they want to go on to mediums, lap 21 to 24. Those who are soft runners, which let me quickly check. I think there was only one of us. I saw Hamilton, who's down in last place now and has already done his 2 stops, so no one left to do that. We expect him, or not him, we would expect those to come in now as well, lap 20. But for those soft, medium, soft, if they want to go for another set of mediums, they go early, lap 21 to 24. If they want to go for a set of softs, 24 to 27.
Well, just quickly as well, going back to Skeeven, it's worked out pretty well for him in terms of track position, well, in terms of where he is in 10th place, but I don't think he could have imagined a more nightmare scenario to be on brand new soft tyres in, because He's in the middle. He's right at the back of quite a hefty train of cars behind 6th place Konzo, and he's got to try and make his way through that train as quickly as possible because he doesn't want to ruin the best of those soft tyres behind in the middle of his pack of cars because he won't get the optimum speed out of them.
Yeah, he did run into the back of Lakita there a little bit. The one thing that you're going to have to do in this race, in these situations, is Compassion and Larkin are battling for P3 right now. They're side by side. Oh my goodness. Wow.
They're
still side by side.
So that's incredible. Compassion's got it. Well, Compassion in the end had to surrender the position. He couldn't hang it around the outside, but that was incredible wheel-to-wheel racing between the pair of them there. Fair play for keeping it clean and tidy. Oh, and Compassion's going back down the inside. That's a brave move. And I think he almost frightened Larkin out the corner.
Yeah, here's the thing. He is lucky, Compassion is lucky that Larkin left him the space. I don't think Larkin was obligated to leave him that space. He could have shut the door because Compassion was not halfway alongside. He could have just shut the door and said, look, he was not anywhere close to making that overtake happen. But he left him the space. Fair play to Larkin, I have to say. And Compassion took the opportunity. That's a corner where if you're on the outside, because it's so quick, so fast, that you're just going to lose so much time. Because A, you're taking the longer way, and B, you don't have the grip on the outside as much as you do have on the racing line. So that's what we saw there. Larkin completely struggling with even staying on track, really, is what that looked like. And yeah, Compassion taking the position off of him and moving up to 3rd place.
Yeah, that was really good from Larkin there. Like you say, defensively driving spot on, and like you say, he gave him room where he perhaps wasn't exactly entitled to do so. So fair play to him. Skeevan has made the move stick on Lakitu, but he's now stuck behind Westy, who in turn is trying to get past Matt. So it really is such a gaggle of cars here, and this isn't optimum for Skeevan's race. You know, he needs to be getting the most out of his soft tyres and as quickly as possible, but there's not much you can do when you're in this train of cars. They're all going to have DRS, and he's going to maybe have to try and think of more imaginative ways to pass, as Westy nearly did as he tried to get past Matt down the inside of, I believe that was turn 10. Very odd place to try and move, and I think he backed out of it ultimately.
Yeah, if you're Skeevan right now, the whole idea is that, hey, you have more grip than the other cars. So what you're going to have to do, you can't beat them on the straight, because they have DRS, you have DRS. You can only beat them in the corners, or you beat them in the pit lane like this. Matt now going into the pit lane, probably onto mediums. I don't think, yep, he's not going onto softs, he's going onto mediums. It's too early for softs right now. Lap 23 or lap 22 actually, end of lap 22. Onto the softs would be a tad bit early. So, mediums, I think the right call here. Same for Cliffy. Onto mediums to finish the race. But, yeah, you're going to have to beat them in the corners, not on the straight. And it's just something that is so different because it's so unfamiliar, really, at this point to the F1 game. Because you have the DRS, and you have the ERS overtake button that feels like KERS, but obviously is the ERS overtake mode. And you try to beat people in a straight line. You have to beat them in the corners to make some moves happen. And it's difficult, I get that. But, you know, there are ways to do it. We saw Louis, who got after his first stint at the start of his second, as we have someone yellow flag there. I think that's for Cliffy. Yeah, as Konzo now in the pit lane, so another place for Skeevan here. But yeah, what I was trying to say is you have to get ways done like Louis did. You know, you take the Audi S a little bit quicker, set yourself up for the short run to turn 13, and then you just shoot it up the inside. You have more grip. You can make that move stick. Surprise element as well comes into play, and that's probably the best way to make an overtake happen on this sort of track when you have a tire advantage.
Definitely. He's not getting close enough to Westy to try anything like that, unfortunately. The momentum, he went a little bit wide there to compound. That must be the dirty air effect that's affecting him at the moment. I've got to say, one driver who not really touched on much, but I think has done an absolutely stellar job so far, is Beast has. He's we didn't really see him up near the front, but he's since getting past Compassion and Larkin, he's built a very solid gap in second place, and Louis not really extending a gap over him all that much either.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm not really surprised. There was a reason why I mentioned him earlier as one of the potential competitors to Louis. Beast has, after all, is the Season 11 Prestige tier champion. That was the top tier at the time. So he already won. He already showed his capabilities. And by the way, one driver he beat, and I think it's the same person, only under a different name, was VSR Louis. So those two have had some run-ins in Season 11 in the Prestige tier, and Beast has beat him by 33 points at the end of the season. So those two know each other, they know each other well, and back when Louis was in VSR, now obviously part of Brutal Democracy Gaming, BDG, but those two, they've had their run-ins already, and I'm interested to see how this develops over the course of the season. Maybe it's going to be Mercedes engine in the Williams versus Ferrari. Skiven also doing a really good job here. Might be getting Ferrari the Constructors' Championship lead after one race, because Cliffy, Louis' teammate, is all the way down in P16. But here we go, some more pit stops. Compassion, Larkin, Westy, Skiven all coming in now. Skiven actually going a bit early here, I think. Skiven is getting the front wing change. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier hit the back of Lakito. I wonder if it was from that.
I don't think so, because I didn't see any damage from that. When did he... Let me check. When did he get damage? Lap 21. Oh, it may have been. It may have been. 25% damage, so it wasn't much, but it was enough to get the front wing changed. And now he should have some more pace.
Passion has rejoined. In fact, all the drivers have just pitted have rejoined on soft tyres, quite understandably. So we've got a yellow flag in sector 1. Not sure what that's for.
I think that's... So there's sometimes a bug on this game where if a driver crashes out somewhere, there's still going to be a yellow flag shown laps after. And that's turn 3. That was where the yellow flag was shown. That's where Midnight spun into the wall and ended his race. So it may be because of that slight bug there. As Beast has now in the pits. That means, by the way, if Louis pits now, he gets a free pit stop.
Incredible. He's driven like a champion here tonight, no doubt about it. Just saw an incredibly nice aggressive move by Gil down the inside of turn 11 on, I believe it was Lakito, who's actually just pitted anyway, so probably didn't need to make that aggressive move, but we've seen that a lot from Gil tonight. He's not afraid to make a move when one presents itself, and I do like to see that in a driver.
Yeah, and by the way, another driver who also had a free pit stop was Beasthouse. He was in P2 before, he is in P2 still. It's quite amazing to see those two drivers being so far ahead of everyone else. Louis, I would expect him to come in now, lap 27. He still stays out. Oh, I think I know what he's doing. He's monitoring the gap. He's seeing it's 22 seconds. It's alright. It's fine. And he wants those soft tires to be as fresh as possible on the last lap, so he can go for the fastest lap of the race as well and get the full 26 points.
We'll call it the Vettel approach to racing, very similar to back in his Red Bull days when he used to always want those fastest lap points and trophies and whatnot, and he wants to make... I mean, if he's got the gap, he might as well stay out on those medium tyres until he needs to pit. It's worth doing. Every point counts to a championship, even if it looks comfortable for Louis now. We don't know what's going to happen further down the road.
Yeah, looking at his last lap as well as... If I could, give me a second here. Telemetry? No, okay. But looking at his last lap, let me quickly do that on the race director. He had a 1 minute 11.5, whereas Beast has posted, well, his last lap was his pit in. But I think the gap is around... Yeah, there you go. Louis does come in now. Not surprised, because I think Beast has gained around 1.5 seconds this lap. So Louis is like, that's getting too much. He wants to give himself sort of a 5-second buffer, maybe, to Beast has to make sure that, you know, there's no... He doesn't even feel like there's a chance, you know? The 5 seconds is like, okay, yeah, that's too far. If you're below 5 seconds, you know, I would be the kind of person to think, maybe there's a chance, let's try. But with over 5 seconds, I think Louis made the right call. And in fact, it is right around 5 seconds right now, so Louis here with a great call, I think. It's exactly what I was looking at. I was like, okay, if it's like under 20 seconds, that's the moment you should pit. And he pitted with like 20.4 seconds of a gap. It's a perfect timing right there.
Couple of overtakes as well, just to mention. Skeven went down the inside of Lakitu into turn 1, and Glock went past Matt as well, I believe. In fact, Matt has now lost another position to Samster. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of team orders in play there, because Samster's on much fresher soft tyres, and they are, of course, both at Mercedes. Giel's actually done a pretty solid job since that drama early on. He's back up to 4th place, and he's right behind Compassion. But speaking about Beastas, it makes you wonder, what could he have done if his qualifying had gone a little bit better?
Yeah, certainly. P7 in qualifying wasn't exactly what he was hoping for, I think. And getting that a little bit better, not losing as much time, I think he could have challenged for the win. One other thing to think about what could have been, if Gil doesn't get that penalty, that drive-through penalty that cost him around 10 to 11 seconds. Look at his gap to Louis now. That race would have played out differently. Louis would have had to pit earlier. He could not have just, you know, dragged it out a little bit longer because he wants the fastest lap at the end. He would have had to pit earlier, and it could have gotten very, very interesting with Louis and Gil. But unfortunately, he did speed under the virtual safety car, did get a drive-through penalty for it. The game's very harsh about that, and I gotta say, personally, I like that. I think last year it was a 5-second penalty, or a 3 or a 5-second penalty that you got from that sort of stuff, from speeding under the virtual safety car. Now they've ramped it up to a drive-through penalty, which obviously at some tracks is more hurtful than on others. There you go, fastest lap by Louis. That's what he was going for. But yeah, that's something that I think is good, as Gil now goes for the move on Compassion. Compassion not even fighting that too much, which I have to say surprises me a little bit, because this is Compassion's home race. He is the only Dutch driver on the grid. And
it's the final podium spot, and there's only 5 laps to go. That's...
Exactly. That's why I'm surprised that he's just giving this up. Like, okay, here you go. You know, rolled out the red carpet, everything. You know, cleaned his shoes just to make sure. I don't understand why you don't fight this. It's 6 laps left to go, 5.5, and give it everything you've got.
Yeah, if he gets past them, fair enough, but make him go the long way around, make him work for it. I know exactly what you mean, I completely agree. You know, it's your home race, you've got a podium fight on your hands. I could maybe understand being a bit more subservient earlier on in the race, but we're in the latter stages now, you know. You got to put all your cards on the table, there's nothing left to hide, and I can't see, knowing what Gil's pace is like, I don't see how Compassion can fight back at him now.
Yeah, he's got no ERS left either. It's down to 11, 10% now, 9. Yeah, it's going down rapidly. The thing is, one thing to explain maybe for the viewers, because it's quite interesting, is the ERS. Once it goes below 10%, it basically deploys half the energy it usually does. So you get much less of a boost, you get much less extra power, and you're certainly not going to gain on the car in front. So that's where Compassion is right now with regards to his ERS. Gil, on the other hand, I mean, he's not much better, but he's not the one who has to attack.
So I just seen there into, I believe that's turn 3. Glock just slammed into the back of Lakitu, and I'd be shocked if he's got his front wing entirely intact after that contact, because it was quite a hefty whack against the back of the Haas. And that could affect his chances of getting past Lakitu here, and he's got Samster right behind him as well.
According to the TAS, according to our telemetry system, Glock has no damage.
he's a bit of a lucky boy, I have to say. That certainly wasn't a light whack against the back of a Haas there. He's desperate to get past Lakitu at the moment, that much is evident. But he's got to be careful behind him because he goes too aggressive and he may find himself losing a position.
Yeah, that could very well happen. I mean, the fight over the last point, it's well and truly underway, but at the same time, Samster not really threatening. 3% ERS, and Louis gets himself a time penalty. I mean, it won't be consequential in the end. Look at the gap, 8.5 seconds. But, you know, maybe a little bit of a crack in the sort of unbeatable shell of the dominator himself, of Louis.
Oh, Glock's going down the inside of turn 7, and that nearly went wrong. There was contact between the pair, and I think Glock had to wrestle his car back under control, and he might lose a position to Samster. Goes down the inside. They're still alongside each other into turn 10. Samster's going to go right around the outside. This is fantastic racing between the pair of them, and they should both have DRS, I believe, as well, so there's a chance for both of them here, but it looks like Glock's kept the position into turn 11, but that was a great side-by-side action there between the pair of them, and credit to each other for giving them the respect and the space they needed.
And it's quite unusual that Glock was the one who retained the position there, because he was the one on the inside. Usually the driver on the outside is the one who can put down the traction earlier, who can start accelerating earlier and gets the better run out of the corner. So for Glock, he must have some serious grip in those tires still left. Maybe the one lap fresher tires made the difference there, although I'm very surprised. Maybe Samster got a little bit of a slide on, I couldn't see that. But certainly surprising, and Glock now really threatening Lakitu here. Under the rear wing of that Haas, trying to find a way past, maybe trying to get as ingenious as Samster almost was with his attempted overtake on Glock. Maybe turn those tables around on Lakitu and say, hey, what the guy behind me can do, I can do as well.
Absolutely, and the battle for the final point, just as strong as the battles further up. They won that final point, they're fighting like crazy for it, and Lakitu, I have to say, is doing a good solid defensive job. I would hazard a guess that Glock perhaps has a little bit more pace than him, but Lakitu's making sure that he's not making the overtake easy, and that's what we talked about earlier with compassion. We were surprised just how willing he was to let Gil have the inside, and yet there goes Glock around the outside, but Lakitu rather does the right thing and forces him a long way around, but Glock's not giving it up. Oh, and yes, Samster's going to go around the outside, and that nearly went wrong. Oh, and Glock's got into the wall and out the race. He put the power down too early. Oh, that's the dramatic end to the race for him, and just as he was looking at getting 9th place, he's looking at scoring nothing at all, and McLaren will be devastated with that.
Yeah, hits the wall with the front left and completely rips off the tyre, and that is Glock out of the race. Very unfortunate, but once again, as I said, it's that bump on the exit there that really hurt him, as we have Louis now on the final lap of the race, bringing home the bacon quite literally. 29 top 5 finishes in a row if he makes it around this track, this 4.2 kilometer long track, one more time, and his 19th win in One Hub. He just needs one more to hit the 20, which is something not many drivers can say for their whole One Hub careers. Not many drivers have been around that long, and certainly not many drivers have been that successful and in the top tier as well. Louis, 2 more corners left to go.
Absolutely stunning drive. He's had pressure from Gil. He's even had a bit of pressure from Beastas as well throughout this race, but he's had it all under control, and he takes a superb, dominant win here at the Dutch Grand Prix. He wins the season opener of One Hub Racing Pinnacle tier. A fantastic display, absolutely brilliant. Beastas as well deserves a lot of credit for getting 2nd place from where he started on P7 on the grid. And Gil holds off Compassion to take the final podium spot. A good effort from Gil. Compassion maybe ruining the fact that he didn't defend his position as hard as he could have. but it is Gil that takes the final podium spot. How would you sum up that race?
Total domination. I think that's the only group of words that you can really have for this. As much as, you know, Gil and Josh were sort of threatening early on, as soon as they both made mistakes, Josh, you know, having his incidents, and Gil making that mistake under the virtual safety car, speeding just a little bit too fast, a little bit too quick, and having to serve that drive-through penalty. That's what sealed it. It's dominated, and it's not really just Louis' pace. Because again, we saw Gil and Josh being on his pace. We saw Bisas being really close. He messed up his qualifying a little bit. But it's his consistency that is just... And that's how you get 29 top 5 finishes in a row with no retirements, no DNFs, no disqualifications, nothing. It's by being incredibly consistent. So... hats off to Louis, I have to say. What a fantastic race. The game picks Samster as driver of the day. Who would you pick as driver of the day?
For me personally, I've been thinking about this last couple of laps. I'm going to say Beastas, actually. I think he did an excellent job after starting P7 on the grid. He made some very nice overtakes. The strategy calls were excellent. And I think he did a great job to get P2, considering where he started. Like we said earlier, it's such a difficult track to overtake around, and he really made it work for himself. The question I'd like to ask him personally would be, if he had started alongside Louis, does he feel like he would have had the pace to challenge him? What about you? Who would you pick for driver of the day?
I mean, look, I've always been complaining about how, you know, driver of the day usually goes to the sort of driver that gains a lot of positions. Like Beast has 5 positions gained. And, you know, oftentimes we forget the guy who's, you know, who's dominating, who's qualifying a pole position, who's winning the race, who's taking the fastest lap. Louis did that also. I'm going to have to go for Louis. And the question that I would ask him is, what was his thinking early on when he had both Gil and Josh behind him? Like, what would have been his game plan had those two not made the mistakes that they ultimately did? And how would he have tried to keep them behind him?
Very good, and I can't argue with that. Just a quick rundown of a classified order then. We obviously got the top 3, Louis, Beastas and Gil. Compassion took 4th, Larkin 5th, Josh 6th. We got Konzo in 7th, Skeven took 8th, Lakitu 9th, and Samster took the final point for Mercedes and got the game's driver of the day, even if not our driver of the days personally.
Yeah, he did have a good drive, obviously, after not even setting a lap time in qualifying. Finishing in P10, gaining 7 positions, and just having an overall interesting race as well. I think, you know, Samster had a good race. Certainly wants to improve, I think, on that qualifying, because quite frankly that wasn't it. But yeah, he got a point in the end, but my goodness, Louis, I'm out of words.
He's a different animal, and he's going to take some stopping this season, there's no doubt about that. The Constructors fight certainly looks very interesting as well. Despite Louis' dominance, it was a tough race for his teammate Cliffy. And then we've got other teams, the likes of Red Bull, I thought looked very strong with Gil and Midnight up until Midnight's retirement. Looked strong. I thought Ferrari showed some good stuff as well with Beastas and Skeven, so that fight promises to be very close indeed. Yeah,
Ferrari having 2 drivers in the points. AlphaTauri having 2 drivers in the points as well, with Larkin in 5th and Konzo in 7th. So I think those may be 2 of the teams that we might have to look out for. Red Bull, yeah. If Midnight doesn't make that mistake and doesn't spin into the wall, I mean, he qualified P4. He certainly could have gotten some good points there. Williams, Cliffy, he was hoping for top 10 in the race. He said he liked the track, but in the end, P15 is not really what he was expecting or hoping for, and maybe they're going to have a talk at Williams, how that can improve for the next race, which, by the way, will be the French Grand Prix, which is the last track that has been newly added to the One Hub Racing calendar back in 2018 with Season 12.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing you all then. If you do like what you see and you haven't yet signed up to One Hub Racing, you can do so at the website onehubracing.com, and be sure to join all of us next week Friday, same times again for all the tiers, from 6 p.m. through all the way through to, well, what is now 10 to 10. So yeah, lots of racing to come in the following Fridays. And yeah, Austin, it's been an absolute delight, and thank you for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and of course, once again, we have to talk about our sponsors. Thank you very much for sponsoring this league, to Liam13 for providing the trophies, and to Next Level Racing for providing the wheel stand to our Going Gets Tough award winner, the driver who participates all races, finishes in all races, and does their media day stuff, I should say, the pre-race interviews, post-race interviews, and driver's press conference every single week.
Absolutely, their support is massively appreciated, as is all of yours for tuning in as well. So I believe we'll leave you on that, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. I've been Jake, that's been Austin, and we'll see you again next Friday. Good night, everybody.